28th of March 2019. Amphibian apocalypse caused by most destructive pathogen ever. The first ever global tally of the disease's toll reveals that it caused declines in at least 501 frog and salamander species. For decades, the silent killer has slaughtered frogs and salamanders around the world by eating their skins alive. And, now a global team of 41 scientists has announced that the pathogen, which humans unwittingly spread around the world, has damaged global biodiversity more than any other disease ever recorded. The new study, published in Science on Thursday, is the first comprehensive tally of the damage done by chytrid fungus Batrachiotrium dendrobatidis. That's BD. And another one called BSAL. I'm not going to attempt to say it. And all the fungus has driven the declines of at least 501 amphibian species, or about 1 in every 16 known to science. 1 out of every 16 known to science. Okay, 90 have gone extinct or presumed extinct in the wild. 124 have declined to numbers by more than 90%, but one of the 501 declines was caused by BD. We known that chytrid's really bad, but we didn't know how bad it was. It's much worse than previous estimates. Okay, this guy's from the National Institute, or Australian National University. Our new results put it on the same scale in terms of damage to biodiversity as rats, cats, and other invasive species. Okay, they're referring to the disease. Most destructive pathogen ever described by science. That is a pretty shocking realization. Bulk of the die-offs occurred in the 1980s. Early die-offs, the 50s and 60s. Lack of evidence. Well, isn't that an interesting time for them to die off? What else do we know that was going on during the 50s and 60s? This is not good. The 50s and 60s were pretty active in nuclear testing, but I'm not going to point to anything because there's no way to suggest it at this point. Just a interesting year for a lot of science. Let's see, the origins of the killer is 20th century human activity such as trade wars accidentally spread the fungus across the world. Along the way, it evolved as a spawning and highly virulent strain that's primarily responsible for the pandemic. Some amphibians can tolerate BD, but in many others, it degrades the animal's permeable skin, which they can use to breathe and regulate their water levels. Runaway infections trigger a death spiral that ends in cardiac arrest. Sounds like a horrible death. It doesn't seem to suggest that it can spread to humans at this point, but they call it the fictional zombie plague for frogs. And this is another interesting year, 1997. Researchers described BD in 1997 in a decade. It was a top suspect in the killings. Let's see, University of Maryland watched the fungus spread throughout the sites she had been monitoring for more than 15 years, 2004, 2008. That's another interesting year for a lot of activity, 2008. Sites in Panama lost more than 2/5 of its amphibian species to BD. Okay, known this system, and it's all completely wiped out. It's horrible to see the degree of change. Okay, fungus is already worldwide. Purging from the environment is impossible. While tropical fungicides can heal BD-stricken amphibians in the wild, they can't be applied on a global scale. Now, these topical fungicides are anything like the things that we have to use for fungus infection. If the frogs, which I'm guessing they do, have liver, I think anything they can fight fungus infections are extremely harsh on their liver. So if this type of thing actually emerged in some sort of form, or just if fungus infections became an issue, which they're an unreported issue, they can cause all kinds of symptoms that people can't readily detect or they can't associate with fungus infections. And sometimes there's an embarrassment about the whole thing with being undereducated about this subject, that it creates barriers. The pet and meat trades probably play a major role in continuing the pathogen spread. A 2008 study confirmed that all major strains of BD, including one of the most responsible for the global pandemic, are present in pet shop animals. Wow. It's not good. Despite its impact, fungus hasn't attracted the same attention to wildlife diseases such as white nose syndrome, a fungal disease that infects bats. If you look at the number of species impacted, the white nose syndrome is incredibly dwarfed by the numerous amphibians. And then if you look at the levels of effort and funding and attention, says Colby, why aren't we giving more attention to the frogs? U.S. officials monitoring the situation, but because BD are already widespread in the United States, there are only so much they can do about it. But researchers pointed out that BD consists of many different lineages. One 2011 suggestion that BDGPL, the deadly false strain, emerged when separate BD strains hybridize. If we stop trying to emphasize the importance of the biosecurity, disease control, and disease surveillance at the governmental level, it's hard to think that we're not going to have another hybrid event. Yeah, I don't like when they use the hybrid event. That hybrid word is scary. I think we've seen it in bird flu, maybe, or there's a lot of fear of something becoming worse with bird flu and swine flu. That wasn't too far ago. Okay, that would start everything all over again. A new strain with new virulence. Virulence. That's always been a hard word for me to say. That's what I find scary. The U.S. has room to take a more proactive approach to BSAL, which has ravaged salamanders in Europe, but hasn't been detected in the U.S., a global haven for salamander biodiversity. In 2015, U.S. government agencies formed a task force expressly on BSAL. In 2016, U.S. officials moved to ban the import of 201 salamander species. All right, so they're trying to slow or stop the disease. Maybe this is a real wake-up call. I think there's a lot of things to be waking up to. Maybe the fungus infections on the human level will be a next thing that we should be looking out for. We got a lot of places that are flooding. I mentioned in that last earthquake over there in North Carolina, there happened to be a lot of rain and tropical storms going through that area, hurricanes. And when you have that much water infiltration, and there's actually, I think, an old fault line there too. A lot of factors that are at play, and it's not entirely impossible for humans to get fungus infections. They actually could be life-threatening. Amphibians make good indicator species because we live in two environments, land and water, and have thin skin that sometimes breathe through. Our thin skin can also absorb toxic chemicals, radiation, and diseases. If there are lots of frogs and other amphibians in a habitat, it means the ecosystem is healthy. Okay, So what usually brings down the defense system of any creature? Usually it's radiation. All right, this was in news just a couple days ago. Actress and film industry leader Denise DuBarry dies of fungal infection at 63. And I've heard people that died at a lot younger age than this. So this isn't. This is definitely a real threat, and I don't know if it increases with more water and more rain. Definitely a food crisis or shortage is going to be a situation to look out for. But there's going to be a lot of hidden variables we're not going to see. So just stay informed, stay aware, keep praying. Thanks for watching. God bless. Thanks for joining me on The Curve.